not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker. Licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. And I'm sure a lot of you are asking, holy free holies, day three in a row. Your cup runneth over. What could possibly be going on? Well, for those who've been around for a while, you know that's the way it used to be. It used to be every day. And we're trying to get back in the saddle there. For those of you who are new or new-ish, who've been only getting a show once every month, well, here you go. Here's the full Monty, baby. We're going to take a quick look at foreclosure data. There have been a couple of interesting stories that have been floating around, and it's another one of those really to-the-point reminders that headlines, frankly, are not to be trusted. This is the headline. Let me hit you. And what's really bizarre is the source on this one. It comes to us from Realtor Magazine, which is normally, and maybe the point of this is to try to get buyers thinking that the market is softening to the point where, wow, we should jump out and be looking at these deals that are happening out there. But this is actually an article from Realtor Magazine. I will have a link to it in the description. If you'd like to see the show notes, you can find those at therebelbroker.com. They should also obviously be in the feed, however you're consuming the show today. But it's always easier sometimes to head to a website and just click the link rather than do it on your phone. So whatever floats your boat. But I thought it would be worth looking into because, man, do they really push the accelerator on this one. Now, before we jump in and discuss this one, I wanted to remind everybody how to reach out to me. Now, apparently, man, a lot of you enjoyed yesterday's show, or maybe it was Monday's show, because I had a big uptick in the number of people who joined the Rebel Underground, and I thought that was very cool. It was a very clear, let people know about it, people actually do it thing. So that was fun. I've decided I'm simply going to deliver on stuff. I'm going to stop saying, I want to do this and I want to do that. And then have people go, hey, Rebel, whatever happened to this thing you talked about? I'm going to stop talking about that stuff and I'm just going to do things. So let me just suggest that if you're interested in real estate, if you want to get the occasional not for everybody else thing, that the Rebel Underground is going to be the place for you. And I'm all about having open and frank conversations about real estate. Sometimes it's awkward subjects. I know that it tends to get really awkward when I say something about real estate agents in general, and then a real estate agent wants to call me up and give me a hard time. And sometimes those conversations don't end well. But I'm happy to have those conversations with anybody. And a good way for us to sort of get a little, at least for me to reach out to you in a more direct way, is through the Rebel Underground. Now, the best way to join is to text the word Rebel Broker to the number 44222. That's text the word Rebel Broker to the number 44222. And since that's the only, I think that's the only way I told people how to get onto the list the other day, and I had a whole bunch of people just within hours of the show going out, all of a sudden joining via that method. So thank you to those who chose to join. I hope you enjoy being part of the Underground. As I promise, I don't sell your email address. I do not share it with a partner who does something with it. If you're going to get an email, it's going to be directly from me. The only place where your email ends up is on a site that lets me maintain a list, right? So I can do bulk mailings. But I also I've reviewed their policies and they don't share it either. So that's important to me. I hate that stuff, so I don't want to put my people through that. So anyway, thanks to those who've joined, and what the hell are the rest of you waiting for who haven't joined the Rebel Underground by texting the word Rebel Broker to the number 44222. And if I'm not mistaken, I do have a Join the Rebel Underground link at therebelbroker.com, so feel free to head over there to do the same thing. So let's jump in. foreclosures are an interesting one, and it plays one of those statistical games with you that I've tried to draw your attention to before. Whenever you see any data at all that does month-to-month comparisons, think to yourself, is this really good data for me? Or could there be a seasonal element to this? Would it be normal for this time of year to be a uptick in this kind of activity, right? And you can make arguments both ways with this data, but I'm going to argue that you still want to focus on year to year. So what are these statistics doing compared to the same time last year is normally my response. I think you're safer. I think when you insist on that, even if you can't pin down an exact reason why, I think in general you're better off. So make that a thing, right? Whenever you're researching this stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and start. Foreclosure filings are on the rise, increasing 13% month over month in October. Now, for those of you who've been listening to the show for a while, you know that was your first clue right there. Month over month. Should we care about month over month fluctuations? I did a ton of Googling on this once I first read it. And I don't know why I've never done it before. After all these years, you'd think I would have. Maybe I did and I've forgotten. I am getting old. And my brain don't work no good. So I could not find anything relating to the seasonality of when initial foreclosure notices are filed, right? And this is filings, right? So this isn't your house was foreclosed on. This was they have filed. So that's really the first thing that happens when a foreclosure begins. They file it. They tell you that you're behind and they file, right? Foreclosures starts rose monthly in 36 states, marking the first double-digit month-over-month increase since February 2018. The metros, and here's the areas that they draw the most attention to. The metro of Minneapolis, St. Paul, Bloomington, Minnesota, Wisconsin saw the highest increase of foreclosure starts in October, surging a whopping 189% month-over-month. Now, I'm going to argue that that's a big freaking number. Unless you had like 5, because maybe it's a sample size thing, right? Maybe foreclosures numbers are so low, the number of homes actually going into foreclosure right now are so low that anything approaching a quote unquote normal number suddenly looks like this crazy gigantic jump, right? So those are things to know too. The sample size. How many foreclosures are we actually talking about numerically? Let's see. 189% month over month. Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana followed with 111% jump. And Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, Florida rose by 109%. Okay, so is there an action item for us as, and I realize I'm talking to buyers, sellers, entrepreneurs, investors, and people who just geek out on real estate numbers and and find themselves being intrigued by trends and things that are happening. So welcome. So all of you are welcome. I frequently fall into all of those categories at one point or another. I'm a super big geek on the numbers. So, and for those of you who've been around a while, you know that's true. So does that mean, is there action to take based on this? Well, maybe if any of these marketplaces sound good to you. Now, what is really funny is I have also read other articles that pointed to Minneapolis as a place to look for investment properties. So with those two things blending together, I'm not sure maybe that equals, maybe do a little armchair research relating to the market in Minneapolis, right? And there's no harm there. My argument would be anytime you do anything relating to market research, whether you actually end up buying anything or not, you have enriched yourself, right? Experience in doing these things feeds success, and it also feeds comfort. So when that time finally comes where you've analyzed it and you go, you know what? I feel like the Rebel gave me the tools I needed to confidently look at these numbers. I feel like I have now moved forward from what paltry suggestions the Rebel broker made onto my own level of really understanding these marketplaces. And I can jump forward now and move on and make things happen. So great. I mean, that's kind of it, right? Hopefully we're creating first step opportunities for you to start moving into an investment mindset where you've got that confidence to take that first step. Okay. So, you know what might be a cool thing? Yeah, here I go. See, I'm about to say something that it would be a great idea and then I'll never do it. So I won't say it. Just keep watching other let me suggest that folks who listen to the podcast, it would probably be a good thing to also subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm toying with different ways to get things out to folks. I also have I have some other plans relating to other venues, but I won't bring that up yet because I haven't solidified that. But that's the goal. I'm already delivering the show on YouTube on a regular basis, so it automatically gets pushed out to YouTube. But I'm looking to do some YouTube specific content. For those of you who join the Rebel Underground, whenever I do YouTube specific content that is not part of the podcast, that will get shared with folks in the Rebel Underground. The other thing is you will often get underground only exclusive content that I share through YouTube. I've done a couple of those. I think have I done 2, maybe 3 videos that were only for folks that were on the underground. They were just, you only get the link and they're not publicly shared. Anyway, okay, so we've got this. Maybe we need to have a chat about potentially looking at Minneapolis and doing more research based on this. If there are a whole lot more foreclosures, or if this foreclosure information is a indicator of market softness in Minneapolis. Those are all things that are great pieces of data to have if you want to reach out either to a real estate agent and get more information on what's going on in Minneapolis relating to data, or again, step back, do the armchair thing and use Realtor.com, use Zillow, and do some research and see what things are selling for. Find out what they say the market is doing. And if we have time, I'm going to try to commit. The wide, wonderful world of consumable content tells me my shows shouldn't be more than 15 to 30 minutes. And then because more people will enjoy and consume it that way. I know I am someone who's in love with the sound of my own freaking voice, so I tend to go on for a long time. But I'm going to try to keep it to that because I guess the statistics is you tend to listen to these things while you're driving and you're commuting to work or home or whatever, and that the average commute is 25 minutes or something. So anyway, I'm just doing what I get told to do. All right, so here we are. Here's the first piece of data. Here's our thumbtack in it. Foreclosures are on the rise. All right. So everybody panic, run around, in circles and scream and yell because the world's falling apart. And then we need to figure out if that's really true. Now, the other end of this spectrum, which I also find super interesting, foreclosure starts are decreasing the most in these markets. New Orleans, and I'm going to totally, so all you Creoles, I apologize. New Orleans and Metairie, Louisiana, Metairie. I'm trying to give you the love and how I pronounce that. I'm not doing it. Down 36% month over month in October. Pittsburgh down 34%. And see, Pittsburgh is another town I've heard good things about for investing. Down 34%. And maybe that's a reflection, right? That could be a reflection of a more robust market. Washington, Arlington, Alexandria, DC, Virginia, Maryland, West Virginia, down 33%. Okay, so that's our starting point. So let's see, well, what can we tease out of this? If we head over to RealtyTrack, and we look at their real estate trends and market info, they give a great foreclosure trends summary page. It's not fantastic. I went there hoping to find data that goes back years. What I was looking for to try to validate my theory was I wanted month-to-month data on pre-foreclosures going back 2 years. And I wanted to see if there was any seasonal stuff. Because I got to think, banks are banks, right? Banks are not creatures of, you know what, let's really iron out what's going on with all these houses and start randomly doing foreclosures, right? You would think, now I get that each loan is different by a different date, right? But it also kind of isn't. If we think about, well, okay, would it be seasonal? Most home buying is seasonal. So if your loan was originated in the summer months, and you're not going to get that first notice until you're, 2 months, 3 months past due? Well, what month are we in, folks? We're in November. So, wow, what a coincidence. It seems to line up with the time when people do the most buying. And since when your mortgage payment is due is in a large part dependent, or when it comes due, that because it's a year-to-year thing in terms of a lot of calculations, it just seems to line up with a few months after all the purchasing probably would have happened in whatever year that person bought the house, right? So I think there's a intuitive way to look at this and think Yeah, it would make sense that there might be a seasonality to this, right? All right, so now here's where the interesting data starts to come in. Pre-foreclosures are up 18.1% compared to the prior month, according to the folks at RealtyTrack. I don't remember what the number was when we were looking at this other article. What was it? They might have been using the same thing. Was it 8? No, they said 13% month over month. So these guys are saying even bigger, 18%. However, if you look at the prior year, it's down 7%, right? So September to October, up 18.1%. October to October, 2018 to 2019 Octobers, down 7%. Okay, well, that's a different perspective, isn't it? So maybe it's not such a big deal. But however, it is such a dramatic jump. I mean, when I see anything that increases by over 100%, I immediately think, okay, either something big is happening or the numbers have been so statistically insignificant that any increase, I mean, if you've got one of something happening every month and then it goes to two things in the next month, well, that's a 100% increase, right? But it's really not that big a deal. It's also why sample size is so important when you're doing your market analysis for cities and in different areas. If your sample size is super small, you don't want to make big sweeping generalizations, right? Because from month to month, not only will you see seasonal things, but you may see, oh, wow, look, the average price of homes jumped $200,000 in 1 month. Well, okay, but only 3 homes sold, and one of them was a $4 million home, right? So there's a logic template you need to lay over all this stuff. Some other interesting stuff. Homes, the category is just auction, so I'm guessing just homes that were auctioned. Prior month, up 8.7%. Prior year, up 1.5%. If you look at bank owned, and this one is super interesting, because this is a big one right now. A lot of folks will try to get into foreclosures when they're in the pre-foreclosure stage. I used to try to do this. I would go and go to the county office, and whenever someone would do this first letter of foreclosure thing, the very first step that's official, I would then reach out to those folks and try to help them find a solution. Totally a heartbreaking kind of thing to do every day. But these are interesting, right? Because they're now bank owned. The bank's now got them, and they may not be listed. But if you're keeping track of these properties, you might want to approach the bank and say, hey, you've got this bank owned property. It's not listed on the MLS. Can I buy it? Let's see if that works. I wouldn't bet on it. Now, the prior month, up 13.6, right? So September to October, it's up 13.6. But compared to the year previous, it's down 43.1%. So for my money, the robustness of the foreclosure equation is flat, right? It's not. In fact, it's the other impression. It's not, oh, wow. It's, okay, we've got some weirdness here. What do I need to look at to figure out what's going on in these specific communities where it's 140% or 120% or 110%? Because I'm willing to bet when we actually get into the nitty gritty numbers, we're going to be left with a different impression. So there's what was the website for that one? Did I mention it? RealtyTrack was where I got the data for that. The other is I went to the source that they used, Adam Data Solutions. Now that's what Realtor Magazine used for their stuff. And they've got a nice, interesting chart here that basically indicates that let's see, U.S. foreclosure activity drops to 13-year low in 2008. So this is a piece of data that reflects the exact opposite impression that Realtor.com tried to convey. Where Realtor.com, the data they were using is from these guys. Their headline at Adam Data Solutions is foreclosure activity drops to 13-year low in 2018, right? Of course, so we're not talking about this year. But in 2018, we dropped to 0.47%, which was on par with 2005. And if we look at the data, I will link you to another chunk of data from the same folks, Adam Data Solutions, where, there is nothing in this chart that says worry to me. If we look at October of 2019 and we scroll it all the way back, it is higher than last month, and it's higher than the previous 1, 2, 3, 4 months, but that's it. So what we should so the takeaway is not panic foreclosures. It is, wow, the first chunk of months or the last few months of 2019, going back to say, February, March, April, really good for foreclosures. Just happened to have 1 month in a 2019 that was more on par with January of 2019 and 2018, right? 2018 was higher. So this is foreclosure good news in terms of, do we want fewer foreclosures? In fact, this foreclosure rate, according to this data, is even lower than it was as far back as they go, which is April 2005. So there you go. It's one of those deals where take the headline, apply a little mental grease to it, and maybe do a little Googling and realize this is crap. If someone were to run out there and think, I need to make investment or real estate decisions based on this headline that foreclosures are on the rise, you would be misinformed. Now, in these specific metros, I would, if these were areas that interested me, and let's go back to the first proposition there of Minneapolis, right? I already kind of mentioned that Minneapolis is a place that's been on other lists in terms of desirability. So we could take a minute and go look at that data. So let's pretend like we just did that. We've debunked it, meaning we shouldn't be thinking that broadly there is something we need to freak out about relating to foreclosures, but maybe on a tighter market analysis level, there is something happening in a market that interests me. I'm not interested in Miami and the Florida stuff. Minneapolis sounds sexy, and I couldn't care less about being around DC. Now, we'll go ahead and take a quick look at that in a second, but first, we're going to take a quick break, so don't go back. Don't go back, but stay, and then we'll talk later. Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right, aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner, broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909. Wow. If there's anything I need to upgrade or update, it is that spot. Thanks for indulging me, folks. I'm trying to get back in the habit of taking a little chunk right in the middle there and doing a little bit of a promo for something. Right now, it's a promo for me. I think you probably guessed that. But anyway, so let's take. We've got a little time left. Let's just take a couple of minutes here and take a look at Minneapolis. Okay, so I hit Google. I type in real estate market Minneapolis Zillow because, for whatever reason, I swear to God, I do not know why they hide this, but Zillow does have a decent overview of different areas. And once you get to it, you can continue to enter, different areas for you to do searches on. And I'm sure it must be in some hidden pull down, or maybe it's something I'm just completely missing. But that's been my easiest way to jump in and find it. So the downside to this is you don't get the crime heat map that I love so very much, which you will get on Realtor.com. But this will give us a good overview of the market. Now, and this is great news, right? So the home value index, according to Zillow, is $266,400. Not the best, not the lowest, but that is a pretty low barrier to entry, particularly in a market like mine, where you need to come up with $200,000 just to have a down payment on something, right? Just if you want to come in with 20% on average properties. They project, now that's 2% increase over last year with a projected 1.8 increase over the next year. Now, a lot of people are going to poo-poo that. I know a lot of folks who really love to buy those properties are going to appreciate at the highest level of the coming year. That's fine, but I would take a reliable, regular producer of monthly income any day in a decent market. So we'll see in a minute how that plans out. Now, their market temperature, as estimated by them, is very hot, super hot, muy caliente. It's a seller's market. Minneapolis home values have gone up 2%, yada, yada. We already know that. The median list price per square foot in Minneapolis is $257, which is higher than the Minneapolis, St. Paul, Bloomington metro average of $205. So that's a $50 difference per square foot. That's not insignificant. Minneapolis, the median price of homes currently listed in Minneapolis is $299,500, while the median price of homes that sold is $267,900. Now, another point to stop and look at these numbers. That's good news. On average, homes are selling below asking price. What does that tell you about the market? They're not seeing multiple offers, most likely, right? Now, and anyone who lives in Minneapolis may be shaking their head going, well, of course, Rebel. What are you, an idiot? This is freaking Minneapolis. But in my marketplace, we celebrate when multiple offer situations aren't happening anymore. And we've seen a big uptick in the not multiple offer scenarios that have been happening over the last few months. Let's see. Median rent price in Minneapolis is $1,795, which is higher than the Minneapolis, St. Paul, Bloomington metro median of $1,700. So not a huge variance. I mean, a $95 a month variance. But so what we would want to do is take a look at what we got in terms of available properties. It's seen, and you also want to look at the historical data. And I'm looking at the home value index over the years. And the lowest we're seeing in this chart is about 212, where values were 158. So we're like 150 grand up from 2012. So the other chunk of data I'd want to see, which I don't see here, the maximum going back is to 2010. I would want to see what statistically happened in this marketplace in the big downturn, right? Because that's sort of your worst case scenario. That's your Ragnarok scenario of the market. If this place went through that without a whole lot of hit, great. Fantastic. Of course, remember what we talked about yesterday. You have to figure out what are things that affect it. We talked about the tech bubble bursting the other day, right? Well, let's pretend Minneapolis had a ton of tech things going on. Well, then in a tech blow up, you might see property values get affected by that. We didn't see a whole lot of that here when it happened here, but there's other areas now that are techie, right? So we've got Boise, Idaho. That's another tech hub. We've got, what do they call it? Triangle Park, which is, God, I used to know the cities that made up the triangle on the East Coast, and I can't remember what it is anymore. Anyway, you've got different places, right, that are where that's a big deal. Let's see here, and then Minneapolis market health, 63 average days on Zillow, 6.3% of homes with negative equity, 0.5% delinquent on mortgage. So in terms of that kind of stuff, that's pretty amazing. And if you look at the average days over time, we're at a pretty significant low. And what's also neat about this chart is it tells you seasonally when's the sexy time. When are things moving the fastest in Minneapolis? And in Minneapolis, it looks to be April, May, where the days on market is like, why is it not telling me a number? 55, right? That was it last year. This year, we had 59 with the low, and then the highest is in February. So, obviously, we don't have winter in California, right? We have short periods of time where it gets a wee bit chilly and water falls out of the sky, but we don't have what you'd call a hardcore winter. There's no salt on our roads, and we're not wearing big old furry coats. But I'm imagining Minneapolis is a place where that happens. So I would guess that things take a little longer to sell if they list at an unfortunate time. Let's see, neighborhoods. That's kind of cool. So they're doing a neighborhoods in Minneapolis breakdown here as well, where they give you the median Zillow home value. Wow, that is kind of sexy. So if you wanted the highest one, that would be Downtown East. And then there's a link to go look at Downtown East. If you wanted the cheapest of the cheap, you would go to Whittier. I have no idea what the hell's up with Whittier. No idea. I may have just said a word, and people who live in this area may be thinking, oh, Rebel, you do not want to be around Whittier at night. Maybe so. I don't know. So my first instinct would be to pick something in the middle. I wouldn't go for the 395, or maybe I would and look for some deals. I would also make sure to check the crime rate stuff in those areas. If I scroll down, did they add crime rate stuff? No, they still haven't added crime rate stuff. But what I would do is look at these different neighborhoods, and I'd pick a median one, right? I wouldn't go for the 395. I wouldn't go for the 282 at Elliott Park. I wouldn't go for Downtown West for 244. I wouldn't go for Loring Park at 240. Wouldn't go for Whittier at 159. So maybe I'd go with East Phillips at 180. Yeah. Any experienced Minneapolis people in there? So let's take a look. All right. So now I've got my zoomed in thing here that is showing me that area with no way for me to get more data. This is an interesting observation. So the median home value in East Phillips is $197,900. East Phillips home values have grown up 4.4% over the past year, and Zillow predicts they will rise 4.2%. So that's good, right? That's better than the overall city, so better than typical. For some bizarre reason, they have a note in here, and maybe it links to the data we just talked about. Foreclosures will be a factor impacting home values in the next several years. In East Phillips, 0.0 homes are foreclosed per 10,000. This is lower than the Minneapolis value of 2 and also lower than the national value of 1.2. So far, so good, right? This all actually looks pretty good. So maybe the next thing is to go and let's go to realtor.com so I can get my little heat map going on. And let's see what deals we can find out there. If I enter East Phillips, is it going to freaking go there? East Phillips, Minneapolis, there it is. It actually does its, oh, I'm an idiot. I put it into Google instead of where I meant to put it. This is really compelling audio. I'm sure you're all enjoying it. Let's do paste, East Phillips, Minneapolis. There we go. Okay, so here we are, and do a map view of this bad boy, and let's turn on that crime heat map, because I'm all about that crime heat map. Okay, not awesome. Right up around Cedar Park, it's a little bit more pronounced as an issue, but everything south of 26th Street looks okay. I think doing this, let's see what we got. There's several homes here listed for sale. Seeing one for 157. Let's go ahead and let's go with my stereotypical rule. Now remember, my stereotypical rule is minimum 3 beds, 2 baths, right? That is the one size fits all selection. My suggestion is pick the areas where you're interested in these various towns. Find out what the dynamic there is. It may be that a 2-bed, 1.5 bath it has equal lucrative attraction as a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in that marketplace. In my scenario, that's just not the case. So I always do a 3-bed, 2-bath. So let's see what we got. So these are all 3-bed, 2-bath. I'm seeing one here for 157. I don't know. Geez, this is basically just a box that's plopped down to the ground. 1,448 square feet, $157,000. Basically, and if you do the 1% rule, that basically means you want to get about $1,600 a month in rent. We already know the average in this area is $1,700. So the next goal would be to go to a good, robust site for rentals. In this case, I'm going to use Trulia. Boink, and let's see what rents are. Let's see in that area. Okay, so I'm seeing, what is that? That's a 2-bed, 1-bath renting for $1,190. I'm seeing a 2-bed, 1.5 bath for $1,600. Yeah, so I would feel a-okay with estimating that number. Now I'd broaden my search a little bit to get just outside that area. Let's try to focus just on 3+ beds. And there aren't a lot. Okay, so 2,200. This one's a 3-bed with 1 bath. Those suck. Here's one with 3 beds, 1 bath, 1,400 square foot. So less square footage, going for $1,800 a month. I'd get some. So all good news, right? These are all things we can plug into our personal, whatever we're keeping track of, right? I don't know if you're using the app I suggested years ago, Property Evaluator. That's one I still use. Or if you're using your own spreadsheet, you don't have to spend money. If you've got a spreadsheet, you can just enter in this data there. But I'm seeing that is that 1% rule that a lot of people like to use. I usually use the 1% rule and round up. Is not unreasonable. Getting 1% of the purchase price. And if we look at this, let's go back and look at the property we found that we thought sounded semi-interesting. Let's look at the photos. This looks like it's got a townhouse vibe to it. It's got stairs going up to the front door. Kind of nice, a little bit of an open area. I'm seeing stairs. Kitchen doesn't look horrible. Countertops suck, but maybe that's okay in a rental. Yeah, okay, all right. Laminate flooring. All this looks pretty good. This is literally you could buy it and the next day put out your rental sign. What the hell is that? I guess that's a basement. Is Minneapolis a basement place? Oh wow. So holy crap. You might be able to carve this into 2 units. I'm guessing that is a basement with a separate entrance. Ooh, sexy. Yeah, I think that's what that is. Okay. So yeah, interesting option. How long has it been on the market? Again, compelling audio where I'm sitting here looking at pictures and you guys are, oh yeah, great. Thanks, Rebel. That's really fantastic. It's been on Realtor.com 28 days, built in 2004. So you are probably at a point where unless they've been replaced, there are probably things in there that need to be replaced. The main things for me are the water heater, obviously, and the heater, and particularly in environments like this, the heater. So that doesn't look too horrible. If we calculate the monthly payment, they're giving us principal interest. This is assuming 20% down, which means our down payment would be $31,000. It's estimating principal interest of $581, property tax of $161, home insurance of $44. There's an HOA. Why is there an HOA? Well, I guess maybe it's a townhousey looking thing, which would put all of your costs at $1,036 a month. So you would probably be positive cash flow of about $500. My personal goal, when there's a percentage I want to get out of my money, right? But typically in terms of the cash flow, I want $500+ a month at least in order for it to be something I'm jazzed about doing. And these are, I spit these numbers out. Totally up to you. If you're fine with $10 over because you know that in that marketplace it's going to appreciate at a ridiculous level, do that. I got a buddy who does that all the time. He's a Navy guy. He bought in San Diego. When he bought that place and then he started renting it, he literally had like $10 a month positive cash flow. But he held on to it because he knew that it was going to go up, and it did. And he's getting tons of money now. Right? He's actually paid off at this point. But my point is that people will poo-poo your strategy. Let them. A lot of those people who are going to poo-poo your strategy are people who have never bought anything. So don't let those folks derail you. Now, of course, if we were to rent this, and let's go ahead and ballpark it at $1,600 a month, that would be a grand total of $19,200 per year. If you divide that by the total amount you'd have to put down, and just as a ballparky thing, right? You want to get general stats on this. And again, tons of cool tools. Bigger Pockets has great tools for doing this analysis as well. Your return on investment is 61%. That can't be right. Is it? Wait a minute. Did I just screw this up? What did I just do? If we assume 1,600 times 12, in my head, I should be able to figure it out. Yeah. No, that's more than half. So, okay, yeah. It's a great return on your investment. You would put in 31 grand and you'd be making about 19 grand every year on that investment. Not bad, right? That's a pretty good deal. Heck, maybe I'll go look. Did I give you guys the address? No, I didn't. So I'm gonna go look at this one. I'm gonna crunch some real numbers. All right. So that's sort of a quick walkthrough. That is a process. I'm gonna suggest that take your calendar, segment out an hour every week, or an hour every night, or an hour every other day, and do this kind of junk. Find an article that you find interesting that might point you towards a marketplace where there might be something interesting happening in the wide, wonderful world of real estate. Follow the breadcrumbs, do a little bit of this research, and I realize I've got 3 different websites open. I've got Zillow open, I've got Realtor.com open, and I've got Trulia open. And the other thing about Trulia is once you're actually looking at a specific property, you can then flip on the whole crime map thing. And I still like their implementation of the crime map a little bit better than Realtor.com. But I still want to be able, when I'm drilling down from the 10,000 foot view, that's when I want my freaking crime map. If it's a super hot area, I don't even want to waste my time. I am not interested in I'm not interested in C and D properties, right? And A properties, maybe not, but maybe B's and C pluses. Yeah. And those just typically aren't in ground zero of crime waves. Okay, folks. I feel like we've done a good one. I feel like the caffeine I've consumed has fed the show tonight. As always, the goal is to leave more useful information for you on the table than we absorb in time that you take to enjoy the show. Hope we've delivered today. If not, and you want to yell at me and scream at me for wasting 43 minutes of your time, feel free to reach out. Go to therebelbroker.com, click on Contact the Rebel, and let it all out. Let's just disgorge all that angst right on me. If not, if you want to give me some love, which is also awesome, you can do the same thing. Send me a message, but you can also go to therebelbroker.com and you can click on the Take the Survey button at the top. I'm still feeding that beast. That is giving me the opportunity. The more people I get who will fill out the survey, it feeds the beast that will let me at some point monetize the show. And that would be a great thing. It would be great to monetize the show. And I think we'd be able to, with a little money coming in relating to the creation of the show, we'd really be able to step up what the show has to offer. So if you're willing to jump in, join me on the voyage, that'd be fantastic. And of course, you can also join the voyage by joining the Rebel Underground by texting the word Rebel Broker to the number 44222. And that's all we got for tonight, folks. Hope you had a good time. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you all next time.